Thank you very much, Monica. Oh, Thank you very much, Monica. Let me go ahead and put up my screen here. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am here to talk about 1031 exchanges and how we can best help you do exchange. Let me get the slide up here. Hold on 1 second. There we go. All right, very good. All right. So anyway, today we're going to talk them. There are some special rules that just came out, especially if you're living in California right now, and actually parts of Florida as well. Hopefully you will learn something, and we will keep questions until the end, and we will open it up for questions afterwards. Right. So first off, just make sure we all understand what a 1031 exchange is. 1031 refers to the section of the tax code that allows you to sell investment real estate, buy replacement investment real estate, and in doing so, you get to defer paying taxes on the profit that you've made. So let's say you have a rental house, you want to sell that and go to Florida and buy a fourplex. So you go through the regular process of selling your property locally. At the close of escrow, the money comes to a third party called the intermediary. That's a company like us. You then go find that fourplex in Florida that Nataka will help you with, and we send the money to the title company on that side. So you're selling investment real estate, buying investment real estate, and because you didn't touch the money, because we had it, you are deferring paying taxes on the profit that you've made. Now, important word there, defer, not eliminate. So if I sell the house to buy a fourplex, and later I sell the fourplex and do another exchange to buy, let's say, a sixplex, and now you're tired of real estate and just sell it, you pay taxes from the house, the fourplex, and the sixplex. You are just deferring paying taxes. Now, sometimes people will ask, well, why bother if I'm going to pay taxes anyway? First thing to remember is that if you make $300,000 of profit and you have to pay $100,000 to the government in taxes, by doing the exchange, you don't have to pay the government that money yet. And you get to use that to buy more, that money to buy more real estate. But the real reason we do the exchange is hopefully we never have to pay the taxes, because sadly, one day we're all going to die. And when we die, we win, because whoever dies, whenever they inherit the property from you, gets what's called a step up in basis, and all the taxes disappear. So make sure we understand this. If I buy a property for $100,000 and say it's worth $1 million, and I sell it, I have a $900,000 gain of profit to pay tax on. But the day I die, whoever inherits the property from me, their basis is the value of the property the day I die. And so their basis is that $1 million. So when they sell it, they pay no taxes because it was worth $1 million when I die. They sell it for $1 million. All the taxes that I would have paid disappear when I die. So that's the real beauty of the 1031, is that hopefully you never have to pay the taxes. Also, this is also why it's much better to inherit property than it is to give it to your children before you die. Because if you give it to them, they don't get that step up in basis. Anyway, all right, let's move on to more about exchanges. And let's stop talking about dying. All right, so there's a term we often hear in 1031, and that term is like kind. This is a very misleading term. Any investment real estate can be exchanged with any other investment real estate anywhere in the country. So if you want to sell a rental house and buy a shopping center, that's okay. If you want to sell a farm and buy an apartment building, that's okay. You could even sell bare land and buy an office building or a house, or I should say a rental house, or a fourplex, or again, any kind of investment real estate can be exchanged for any other kind anywhere in the country. And so if you sell in California and buy in another state like Florida, you are still deferring both state and federal taxes. So that's an important thing to realize, is this is a federal law and every state follows it lockstep. So if you sell in California, buy in another state, or sell in another state and buy in California, you are deferring both state and federal taxes. Now, there are some tax reporting things that you need to know about in California. but hopefully your accountant knows about that. But again, the term like goes back many, many years when we used to do things, we used to do 1031 exchanges for things other than real estate. I've done exchanges for airplanes. I've done exchanges for artwork. I've done exchanges for farm equipment. I've done plenty of exchanges for things other than real estate. And that's what like kind meant. If I sold a boat, I had to buy a boat. If I sold a farm equipment, I have to buy farm equipment. But that's gone. We don't do 1031 exchanges now on anything other than real estate. So the key thing to take away, main thing to remember now is that 1031 is only about real estate, but don't let that term like kind confuse you. It's investment real estate for investment real estate. But I did say it has to be investment real estate. You see, your primary residence is not an investment property. Your primary residence has a completely different tax rule. Once you live in your house for 2 years, you get an automatic exemption. If you're single, you get to keep $250,000 of profit tax-free. If you're married, you get to keep $500,000. Again, if your profit, if your gain on your primary residence is more than that $500,000, then you pay tax on that excess gain. Now, especially if you live in the Bay Area, it is very common for people to have much more than $500,000 of profit, of gain in their primary residence. And so a lot of people are afraid of selling their house because they don't want to pay taxes on that excess profit. So is there anything else you can do? If you have a highly appreciated primary residence, is there anything you can do if you don't want to pay taxes? There are two things to know about. First off, do you have any portion of your property as investment? Do you have an ADU? Do you rent out the basement? Do you have a home office? The important part here is, what are you declaring to the IRS? If you are declaring that a portion of your property is rental or home office or business, then that percentage of the sales price you can do an exchange on. So using this example, you're selling a property for $1 million and you're showing that 20% of it is used for business or investment or rental. So when you sell it, $200,000 or 20% of the sales price, you do an exchange with, and the other 80%, you get treated like a primary residence and you get your $250,000 or $500,000 exemption against that. Very important here. It is very much based on how you report your taxes. If you have an ADU or a home office, but you don't report it on your taxes to the IRS, it's not investment real estate. So again, the key here is, if you're reporting it to the IRS, then whenever you are declaring to them that amount of the property you could do an exchange on. Now, the truth is, most of us don't have an ADU. Most of us don't rent out or have a business that we run from our primary residence. So if you have another highly appreciated primary residence, is there anything else you can do? Yes, move out. Turn your house into a rental property. Now, after you've been renting it for a year or two, is that house now an investment? Yes, it is. Does the house still qualify as a primary residence? Yes, it does. Because the definition of primary residence is a property that you've been living in 2 of the last 5 years. So if you look back at the last 5 years from now, let's say March of 2018, 5 years ago, did you live in the property at least 2 of those years? And if the answer is yes, you can qualify for both tax rules at the same time. So let's say you sell your house for $2 million, you get to pocket $500,000, assuming you're married, and you can then do a 1031 exchange on the remaining $1.5 million. So again, if you have a highly appreciated primary residence and you don't want to sell it because you don't want to pay the taxes, this is a good strategy. Now, it does not work for everybody. If you have, let's say you need the money from your house to go buy a bigger house, doesn't work for you. Also remember that you are not reinvesting just the excess profit. You are reinvesting the entire sales price less the $250,000 or $500,000. So if you sell your house for $10 million and you're single, you only get to keep 250,000. The other 9.75 million has to go into the 1031. So again, it does not work for everybody, but this is a strategy I see a lot of people do right now, especially in the Bay Area when they have a highly appreciated primary residence. All right, so let's move on. What other kinds of properties don't qualify for 1031? Flipping real estate. If you buy a beat up old house, you fix it up and you sell it, flipping real estate is not considered to be investment. It's considered to be a property purchased for resale. It's like when you go to the store, they buy, the store isn't, it's not investment. That's at the store, it's inventory. They bought it because they want to sell it. That's what you're doing with a flip or a development. You're buying a bare piece of land, you're building on it, and you're selling it. You bought that property with the intention of selling it, so it's not considered to be investment. Similarly, you cannot exchange into any kind of syndication or partnership or REIT because that is not considered to be direct ownership of real estate. That's considered to be interest in a partnership or entity that owns real estate. That does not qualify. Now, second homes also do not qualify. Now, if you have a property that you rent out, like a vacation rental, VRBO, Airbnb, that does qualify because a vacation rental is considered to be investment, but a second home is not. Now, most of you are thinking to yourself, oh, it's okay, I don't have a second home. But some of you probably have a property that you're letting family members live there. And if the family members are living in a property and they're not paying you market rate rent, it's not considered to be investment real estate. It's considered to be property for personal use. So be very careful about this. If you have a property and you're letting family members like your children or your parents live in the property, you need to treat them like a regular tenant, including collecting market rate rent. Then it is considered to be investment. So be very careful about property you're letting family live in. All right. Vacation rentals, I mentioned earlier, vacation rentals do qualify for 1031. And we actually, and one of the questions Monica and I were discussing before the meeting today is what kind of property are people buying these days? And one thing I've seen a lot of people do in the last couple of years is buy vacation rentals. Now, sometimes people buy these properties with the expectation that they may move into them at some point themselves, or buying they think they can make more money on because they're doing the Airbnb or VRBO. Vacation rentals do qualify, but the IRS has given us a very strict timeline or very strict rules on what property qualifies. So the key is this. If I call it the 222 rule, for 2 years of ownership, you must rent it out at least 2 weeks per year and don't use it for more than 2 weeks per year, then it's investment. So again, you and your family can use the property up to 14 days for 2 weeks per year. You must rent it, not to family, for at least 2 weeks or 14 days per year. And you must do this for 2 years. Once you have done this, after that 2-year period, you can do whatever you want with the house. So I see a lot of people buying property in areas like Florida or Lake Tahoe or Hawaii, or maybe near the beach, as something they eventually want to move to themselves or could use for their own second home. Well, if you have a rental property, you want to do an exchange, and you follow these guidelines about treating the property like a vacation rental for 2 years, then at the end of 2 years, you can move into it or stop renting it and just use it for your personal use or whatever you want to do. That's okay, because the IRS has told us that you only need to do this for 2 years. So again, this is a strategy I see a lot of people do these days, especially when they're buying in areas that are very used to Airbnb and VRBO, vacation rental type properties. All right, now there are two important things to know when you're doing an exchange. How much do you need to spend and how long do you have to do it? Now, I'm going to give you right now what the standard rules are, but then I'm also going to talk about something very special that's happening right now. So normally in an exchange, you must know what you're going to buy within 45 days and close escrow within 180 days, which is about 6 months. So from the day escrow closes, you have 45 days to give us the exact address to the property you're buying, not a house in Florida. It has to be the exact property you're buying, the exact address, the exact unit number. Now you can identify multiple properties, and during the 45 days, you can change your mind as much as you want. But the key here is that by the time you get to the end of the 45 days, you need to be in contract for what you want to purchase. And you have 180 days, about 6 months, to actually buy it. Obviously, that 6-month issue really is only relevant if you're buying something like new construction, because again, you really need to be in contract on what you want to buy within the first 45 days. Now, note that 45 days is not a lot of time. I understand that. This rule was put in by Congress back in 1984, a long time ago. And it really, in today's market, it's not a lot of time. However, remember though, that 45-day clock does start at the close of escrow. The reason I point this out is because I see a lot of people asking for longer escrow. It's very common now for people to ask for 45 or 60 or even 90-day escrow. Something, if you think it's going to take you a long time to find a replacement property, the longer the escrow, the longer before the 45-day clock starts. So be careful about that. Also, I often see people wanting to sell 2 or 3 properties to buy 1 replacement. You can do that. You can sell 1 and buy 2 or 3 properties. You can sell 2 or 3 and buy 1. If you are going to sell 2 or 3 properties to buy 1 replacement, that 45-day clock starts the day the first property closes escrow. So be very cautious of that. I would say when people ask me, what's the thing that usually goes wrong with people's exchanges? What's the thing that people need to be most careful about? And I would say by far the most important thing to realize is you have a very strict time limit, and normally there are no extensions, no exceptions, no excuses. You cannot individually ask the IRS to give you an extension because you didn't find anything, or because you were sick or anything. That doesn't work. However, right now, if you are thinking about selling a property, or you actually are in the middle of selling a property and you live in California, there are some special rules that just got implemented because of all the flooding we got. And so if you are what is called an affected taxpayer, which means you live in one of the 40-some counties in California that was declared a federal disaster because of the flooding, primarily the flooding we had in January, then you get extra time to do your exchange right now. This is a very special thing. I have been doing this job for more than 20 years. I have never seen the IRS issue extensions this long before. Don't expect to ever see this again. Okay, this is only the second time we've ever received extensions in California at all in 20 years. So, so the key is this: if you live in one of the what's called affected counties, and that's almost all the Bay Area, you can apply with your intermediary for an extension. And essentially, if you sell the property now, your identification deadline, instead of being regular days, goes all the way to October 16th. So if you sell a property now in March or April or even May, instead of doing the 45-day rule, you have until October 16th to identify what you're going to buy. Now, you still have your standard 180 days to close the escrow, but that extra identification period is something very special. Again, don't ever expect to see it again. But if you are on the fence about selling your property, you can get it on the market now. Do it. Obviously, by the time we get to August or September, it's not going to make any difference. But if you sell the property before then, you're going to get these extra timelines, assuming you are what is called an affected taxpayer. Now, I will say that as an intermediary, we are not allowed to give you tax advice. So we cannot tell you whether you are an affected taxpayer. I can give you what the rules are, but you really should be discussing with your own accountant, your own CPA. You should be discussing with them whether you meet the IRS criteria of being an affected taxpayer. And if you do, though, and your accountant is okay with it, then you get this extra timeline. So unfortunately, we cannot give tax and legal advice, so we cannot tell you you qualify. But just know that these rules out there do exist, and many people are taking advantage of them right now. All right. Moving on from the timelines. How much do you need to reinvest in the next property? The answer is very simple. All of it. Okay. Not the profit, not the equity, whatever you sell the property for, the sales price, that's how much you need to buy. Now you can subtract the realtor fees and escrow fees. That's all. Do not subtract the loan. Do not subtract the improvements. Only the realtor and escrow fees. So if you sell your property for $1 million and you pay the realtor 5% and your net sales price is $950,000, then you need to buy at least $950,000 worth of replacement property. Again, you can buy 2 or 3 or 10 properties that add up to that $950,000, and you could buy more than that. You could buy for $10 million if you want. Now, can you sell for $950,000 and buy for less? The answer is yes, but you pay tax on the difference. That difference is referred to as boot. So if you sell for $950,000 and only buy for $900,000, you pay tax on that $50,000. Again, I don't care how much you have invested in the property. I don't care what you bought it for. I don't care what the loan is. I don't care what your improvements are. You pay tax on the difference between what that net sales price is and your net purchase price. Also, all of the equity, all the cash that comes from the sale, all has to go towards the next property. Any cash left over, any money you don't spend, you pay tax on. So where you have to be careful here is you want to make sure if you're getting a loan, you don't get too big of a loan, because if you get too big of a loan, then you're going to have cash left over. You're going to pay tax on that cash. Now, obviously, if there is a loan on the property currently, that loan is going to get paid off at the close of escrow. But you need to make up that loan when you buy the next property. Now, you can use your own cash instead of getting a loan if you want, but you need to replace the value of that debt when you buy the next property. So the main thing to remember is equal or greater to what you sell the property for, and use all the equity towards that next property. As long as you're doing that, they're just deferring all your taxes. Actually, before I go there. So again, that's the basic rules of the exchange. You're selling investment real estate, you're buying investment real estate. You need to know what you're going to buy within the first 45 days. You got to close escrow within the 180 in normal times, and you got to reinvest all your money. Otherwise, it's a fairly simple process. Now, one of the things I know that Monica had discussed early, and I think she even put this in the announcement, is about foreign people doing exchanges. Can foreign sellers do exchanges? The answer is yes. I have done many exchanges for people who are not U.S. citizens or permanent residents. However, if somebody is not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, a few things they got to do. Number one, they must have a social security number or tax ID number. Now, if you don't have one and you want to do an exchange, you can apply for a temporary tax ID number, but you must have that before escrow closes. Also, there is additional paperwork that you need to do and file with the IRS. One of them is called the 8288B form. Again, don't worry about the number of the form. The key here is you are applying to the IRS for a waiver, because what's going to happen is escrow is going to be required to withhold some of the sales price towards the IRS. This is referred to as FIRPTA, is foreign interest in real estate. And when that sells, even if you're doing an exchange, the title company will withhold some money up to 15% of the sales price. So now this 8288 form essentially asks for a waiver of that. It asks if you do, the problem is it never comes in time. So you need to apply for the money to get the money back. The main thing I want to leave you with, and I don't want to get too deeply into the details of this, but know that foreign persons can do exchanges as long as they have a tax ID number. But more importantly, please work with the intermediary and the title company as early as you can in the process. Even before you list the property, let them know so that we can make sure you get the extra paperwork done that needs to be done so that you can still do an exchange when your property is sold. Now, we talk about 1031 exchanges as a way to defer taxes, but that's not why people do exchanges. The easiest way to defer taxes is don't sell it. If you don't sell the property, you don't pay taxes. So why do people actually do exchanges? People do exchanges because they want to buy something better. Now, what does better mean? Better means whatever you want it to mean. Better might be, I'm looking for property with better cash flow. Better might be, I'm going to sell my one big house and buy lots of small houses. Better might be, I'm going to sell my lots of small houses to buy one big house. Maybe I move into Florida, so I'm going to move all my rentals to Florida. Maybe I have 5 children and I don't want them to fight about my real estate when I die. So I'm going to do exchanges to buy 5 different properties so each kid knows exactly what they're going to inherit. I do a lot of those. Maybe you run out of depreciation. Maybe you have deferred maintenance on your property. The key here, and the reason I want you to think about this is when you're talking about investment, when you're talking about doing an exchange, don't focus on deferring taxes. Focus on what do you want out of your real estate? What do you want out of your next piece of investment real estate that you are not getting from this piece of investment real estate? 1031 is the tool that allows you to get from what you own today to what you want to own tomorrow. And once you know what you want to own, again, better cash flow, easier to manage, closer to home, whatever those reasons might be, why you would want to do an exchange, why you would want different property, then 1031 is a tool that allows you to get from what you own today to what you want to own tomorrow. And it's a very powerful tool. And when you think about it, Monica mentioned at the very beginning how important it is for us to have assets, especially real estate assets. 1031 only applies to real estate. Anything else that you sell at a profit, stocks, mutual funds, your art collection, even a pencil, anything that you sell at a profit, the IRS is going to take taxes, except real estate. As long as you're using the money and buy other investment real estate, you don't have to pay the tax man every single time. So again, very powerful tool, very important asset for you to have. And my 30 minutes are just about up. Monica, did you want to see if there's anything in the chat room or if people have any questions?
I have encouraged people to write their questions chat box. I think people are doing that. And thank you very much for such an informative presentation. And I do have some questions that I would like to bring it up.
Please.
Yes. So IPX is a reputable company. I know that you have a lot of experience and also good bonds behind it. So for what is happening in this country now, I'm sure that many of the investors would like to know how the net proceeds of the exchange are placed with IPX if they're going with your service. And also, yeah, will the amount be an interest-bearing account, especially if we can extend the exchange to October 16.
That's very important. So the first thing to realize is what we do as an industry is not regulated. And there are a lot of small mom and pop exchange companies out there who are happy to hold your money. They may even charge $100 less than we do. I mean, the cost of an exchange is not very much. It's around $1,000. But the key is you want to work with large, safe companies. We are the nation's largest intermediary. We are owned by the same company that owns Fidelity Title and Chicago Title and Lawyers Title and a bunch of other title companies. We're a Fortune 500 multi-billion-dollar corporation. We have bonding, we have insurance. Exchange companies don't. Please make sure you only work with large, safe companies. Now, your question, Monica, about where the money is placed. What we do with the money is we put the money into a bank account, IPX, for the benefit of Monica Young's exchange under your social security number. You get the FDIC insurance on that. And especially with what we've seen happen in the market lately with SVB and a few other banks, this is why we only work with absolutely the largest banks. Right now, US Bank, the one that if these banks fail, then the entire world economy has just gone kaput. So we keep the money at only the safest institutions. Now, your question about interest rates, they are in an security of the funds, immediate access to the funds. Also, we have much more rigorous accounting that we need than just your standard commercial bank account. So if you want to say, well, my money market is paying me 4%, you're not going to be getting 4% of these accounts. Most people will be getting less than 1%, but you will be getting interest. But again, for us, security and access to the funds is much more important.
Got it. Yeah. Very, very helpful. So we do have a simple question from Shuyi.
Yes.
How much do you charge for the 1031 transaction?
It's $1,000 when the property is sold and $250 for each property purchased in replacement. So if you sell one, buy one, $1,250.
Got it. Yes. So another question from Richard. Can you comment on the Biden 2024 budget plan to end 1031 exchange? And the proposal would allow, like say, hopefully it will not pass. What do you think?
Okay. The answer is it has zero chance of passing. Zero. Now, most people don't realize 1031 exchanges have been around longer than I have. They've been around since 1921, so for more than 100 years. Okay. To get rid of 1031 exchanges would be very important change to the tax code. Now, that said, there have been a few proposals over the years. I think the current last couple of budgets from Biden, including this one, is to limit 1031 exchanges. However, that has absolutely zero chance of passing. We have friends in our industry, both Republican and Democrat, from the most conservative to the most liberal. Everybody loves 1031 exchanges, knows how important it is to the real estate economy, because if they did away with 1031 exchanges, 30% of all real estate or all commercial real estate transactions would stop cold. And a lot of residential would also, because people don't want to pay taxes. And so we have economic studies that show that 1031 actually increases the amount of money Congress is making because of things like transfer taxes and in higher property tax rates and just the cycle of the economy. We can show that 1031 actually benefits the economy. So there is zero chance of this passing, not to mention because the Democrats own the Senate and the Republicans have the House, nothing is going to get passed in Congress for the next 2 years anyway, especially when it comes to taxes. So I wouldn't be worried about it.
That's very good to know. I do have a question because that has been asked a lot, by my clients. You mentioned about the primary residence. Say if a property is owned by husband and wife, there is $500,000 tax deduction for primary. But what if they add a child on the title? Say, would that increase to have $750,000 deduction? And how long the child has to stay on the title before they sell?
The answer to that is they really need to discuss that with a tax professional. I have always been told that adding your child on title does not qualify them for the $250,000. Now, if they are adults and they buy into the property, or you all buy it together, then maybe, but just adding your child to title does not give them the additional $250,000. Again, discuss that with your tax professional. Now, I will say that if 3 people buy a property together and all live there, then they each get the 250. So it's not capped at 500. It is $250,000 per owner of the property. But my understanding is it has to be for those who have invested in the property, not just on title.
I see. I see. So like that probably would be a good question for the CPA or tax
Absolutely.
advisor.
Yeah,
I see.
don't assume just because your kid's on title to the property that they get the exemption as well. Please discuss this with a good tax professional.
Got it. Yeah. And there's another question from 355391 asking about how much time do you have to do 1031? I think this attendees sign up late. So if you would wait for the recording because Ron has mentioned about it, and also a special time, California now has some extension. And also, I have another question. Basically, say if I have a lot of clients have real estate, say in China or in other country like Malaysia, for overseas real estate, they cannot be qualified for 1031 even if they have reported it. Is that correct?
Well, it's interesting. Up until 1984, you could exchange U.S. real estate for foreign real estate or foreign real estate for U.S. real estate. In 1984, they changed the tax code, and now 1031 is only U.S. to U.S. or foreign to foreign. So if you're selling United States, you have to stay in the United States. Now you can go to places like Guam or the U.S. Virgin Islands territories, but not outside the United States. Now that said, legally speaking, you can do exchanges for foreign real estate to other foreign real estate. The problem is because of the banking regulations and money laundering laws, virtually no intermediary I know will work with foreign exchanges. So while legally, technically part of the tax code, you can exchange foreign for foreign, I don't know anybody who will help you do that. I know that we don't, I know that no large exchange company does. I don't know any exchange company that helps exchange foreign real estate for foreign real estate.
I see. So if no QI can do it,
exactly.
That probably will be tough to do sell a piece of property in China and buy something in Singapore. Probably exactly. It would be difficult, huh? I see. Yeah, yeah. Wow, you are the expert. You know, I'm glad you answered this question for us. So, I really think one more question, maybe 2 more questions, then we probably kind of like we can let you enjoy the rest of the weekend. So the 2 questions now, one is the farmland or a tenant in common is the like kind exchange?
Tenant in common, yes. So if you want to buy property with other people, so let's say you're selling your property for $1 million and you want to go buy a $5 million property with other people, you can buy property with them as a tenant in common, where you own a fraction of the property and they own a fraction of the property. It's called tenancy in common or fractional interest. So as long as your share, your $1 million that you sold, as long as you own at least $1 million worth of the new property, yes, you can own a percentage of that property.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So for details, you know, you're welcome to contact Ron, or you can also ask me on that because we've done it before.
Yeah. May I say, I saw a question pop up about when to involve the intermediary in the transaction.
Yes.
Let me address that because I saw that question pop up. Yes. I'm happy to answer your questions at any time. You're welcome to call me even before you list the property. But when it comes to the mechanics, when do we actually start the exchange process? That's when you are in contract to buy to sell your property. So we have to be involved before escrow closes on the sale of your property, because the title company has to know that that money comes to us at the close, not to you. So once you're in you're going to go through the regular process of listing the property. Once you have a buyer, that's when I need to get involved to do the paperwork. And again, we have to be involved before escrow closes.
Yes, we're going to include Ron's contact in our sharing of recording and the PDF file. So Whitney, you can contact Ron directly for your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. So I think there would be other people that think of questions after they digest all your information today.
You're welcome
And
to call me, email me, however I can best answer your questions. This is my cell phone. You can even text me messages.
Yeah, we will include that. And I like your cell phone because the last 4 digits end with 1031.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very easy to remember. Thank you so much, Ron, for your time. That's very, very helpful and informative. And so for those who are thinking about doing 1031 exchange, we'd like to discuss, we've done a lot of it. We have helped clients to finish their 1031 exchange process, either for local Bay Area, California, or out of state. And so that would start my second part of presentation by our partner in Central Florida. Thanks again, Ron. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes. So now, we have another speaker, Ms. Natalka McIntosh, been waiting to present to us and share with us some good information about Central Florida. And Natalka is the broker of New Home Outlook and has been serving the real estate industry for over 12 years. She specializes in new home construction and real estate investment. And she has very good relation with builders and are able to secure good incentive for buyers. Natalka, please share with us about the latest.
Yes, thank you so much, Monica.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Yes, I'm going to share my screen and I look forward to showing you some of the investments here in the area. Bear with me while I get this up here.
Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to going over the Orlando area with you. I have lots of different properties to show you with great incentives in the area, as well as some really great development that's come to the area that gives a lot of opportunity for investors. So I'm going to jump right into the market and what we're seeing here in the Orlando area, because I know that's very important as the markets have been shifting and a bit volatile in different areas. We have anticipated this year having been affected by the recent and continuous rate hikes. We've actually found it only to push more people moving to the Central Florida area. So the cost of living here is great, and it has increased and escalated so high in other regions of the country. And so many are being affected by that. So that's why it's drawing and attracting a lot of people here to the area. So Florida continues to see that high volume of demand just because of those reasons, cost of living, and as well as focusing, I'm sure you guys know the area, but it is in close proximity to the Disney area. There are many city attractions, and it is very close to the beaches as well. So the job opportunities and the city growth is bringing a lot of people migrating to this area, which is creating quite a bit of demand for the rental market here. So we are seeing, in addition to that, unusually high appreciation for investors, particularly the ones who have purchased in areas prior to massive growth coming into that area. So we're going to kind of dive right into some of these areas and what we're seeing. And I'm going to focus in on some areas where we are going to see development, whether it's started or it's in the current state of being developed, because again, that's where we're going to see quite a bit of appreciation over the years. So I'm going to focus right in on what's called NeoCity. And this is a development that's coming to the Orlando area. It's just right outside. It's actually southwest of the Orlando attractions, Disney, which we'll see on the map. And they've got quite a bit going into this area. And so this is where we're going to focus on some of the properties on the outskirts. And I'm going to go over with you what exactly is NeoCity and why is it important to you. And so NeoCity right now, it's being recognized here in the Orlando market as the up and coming world epicenter for smart sensors, photonics and optics. It has ready-made synergies with the University of Central Florida, which is the nation's largest producer of aerospace engineers. The University of Florida here, as well as University of South Florida, Florida International University, and Florida Atlantic University, all here near Central Florida's largest concentration of Department of Defense partners and contractors. So you can see a little bit of that development and kind of what's coming to the area, what's already in the works. It's been strategically placed, this area of NeoCity, which I'll show you more on the map. It's been placed in close proximity to Orlando, inside of America's only spaceport, seaport, airport, and rail grouping, which is important as we're looking at investment opportunities. It's poised to serve as a catalyst for high-tech innovation and creation, and it's including many jobs and much capital investment. NeoCity is already generating marketplace momentum, and it's also as well as this nation's approach to the advancement of research development and commercialization hubs, all within the boundaries of locally planned communities. So I'm going to go over some of those locally planned communities near this area that's being developed. And I'm going to show you on the map here, which is very important to understand where they're placing NeoCity. If you're familiar with the Orlando area, here you'll find the downtown market. We're going to go just southeast and you're going to find the Orlando International Airport that I mentioned. Right next to the airport here, we're just going to go a little further south and we're going to find what's called Lake Nona, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It is a very popular, famous area here in the Orlando area. And in that Lake Nona region, which is Medical City, pull my mouse up, right in this area here. It has very close proximity to the Orlando International Airport, as well as the city attractions, which are going to be just west. And so you see here on the map, they've placed this NeoCity very strategically right south of the Orlando Airport, very close to Lake Nona, and is going to be positioned in between the city of St. Cloud, as well as Kissimmee. So one thing I want to note about this area and why we're focusing so heavily on it for investment, you're going to see on the left-hand side here, all the development that has already been put in and then what's coming to the area. So I mentioned a lot of the universities. These are very popular, world-renowned. I've also mentioned Lake Nona Medical City. So all the hospitals, the healthcare, that's attracting a lot of working, class where these individuals are coming in, they're going to school, they're also coming in for Medical City, and they're needing places to rent out. And so these are very high paying, high salary positions, and they don't necessarily want to purchase in the area yet. So they're looking for a rental while they're going to school or they're working at the hospitals here in Lake Nona. And where are they coming to? They're coming to this NeoCity area here, St. Cloud corridor. And this is also something on the left-hand side I want to focus on for this NeoCity, which is really going to be the tech and innovation centers that I had mentioned to you. So that's going to be bringing quite a bit of job and quite a bit of growth here to the area. And of course, we have the international airport in close proximity and the transit stations, which is very important for people. So you can see on that map a little bit about where it's positioned. And here we'll focus a little more in detail on this NeoCity. Close proximity again to the airport, and it's also close proximity to the Florida Turnpike, which is very important for people to be able to get in and out of the city very quickly. So it's providing a lot of residential and planned community developments in the properties that I'll show you, where it's putting them close proximity to the city. So whether they work in Lake Nona, or they work in NeoCity, or they work in downtown Orlando, this particular area is going to attract quite a bit of people needing housing. So here I'm going to focus a little bit more on what's coming to the area. When I mentioned before, the appreciation, that's huge for investment. So a lot of times when you're looking to invest in an area, you don't want to invest in an area that's already been completely developed and that appreciation is at its height. You want to look for areas where it's just in the works. So the starting development is coming, and you want to watch for these major companies coming in to an area. And that's when you know that development is now moving southward. So you can see they've put in the Walmart in this NeoCity St. Cloud corridor that we're talking about next to Kissimmee as well. They're putting the Publix, which is the main grocery store. They're putting in all the healthcare and the Walgreens, Chipotle, major restaurants. So that's all very important to note that those things have been put in to these areas. And then we're now going to look a little bit more about the proximity of this NeoCity St. Cloud Kissimmee corridor, proximity to the attractions of Orlando. This is huge for whether you're using this as a rental property, a vacation home, or something you'd want to come to down the road. You want to have it in close proximity. So you can see on the map here where I'm circling, this is that area that I've been discussing with you. It's right in through here. So you can see just west, we have Walt Disney World, we have all the parks and resorts, we've got the SeaWorld, which is important, and the Universal just north as well. So very, very close proximity to all the attractions. But the nice thing about this corridor here and where we're focusing on the developments are, you're not right next to them where you're going to get a lot of that traffic. So these are not areas where, you're going to see I-4, backed up quite a bit with traffic. And so investment, purpose-wise, it's good to get maybe 15 minutes out from the attractions, 15 to 30, where you're going to get more higher value, higher rental figures in this particular area here. So moving on to the next area, I'm going to focus on what they've begun to bring to the NeoCity area and what's important if you're looking at this for investment. They've put in 2.2 miles of dedicated bike lanes. They've put in the trails, which is getting people outdoors. People absolutely love to see this. They're putting in 15 acres of open space, linear parks. They've put in structural landscape to really give it a nice appearance, 10 acres of urban farm, and broad walk, which is very important. So NeoCity is a master plan. It's bringing sharp focus to Osceola County and its efforts. And let me move this so I can see my presentation here. Apologize. Economic development and job creation. This area is galvanizing planning efforts for county-owned land between Kissimmee and St. Cloud, and is very close to the lake Tohopekaleja. It's anticipated to be a leader in sustainable development, and NeoCity has been integrated into an interconnected network of growing population centers, which is just south of Orlando, like we discussed. So a little bit more about the NeoCity. I want to really focus on what's coming long-term for the economic output, which is very important as you're considering these areas for investment, $25 to $28 billion. So, excuse me, direct jobs that are coming into the area, you can see anywhere from 26 to 34,000. Indirect, very high numbers here, 40 to 45,000. And so what you're seeing here with the NeoCity, it's not just necessarily, they call it a city, so it kind of confuses people because people think they're buying in a city. It's actually a development. It's a master plan development within two cities. So that's where we're focusing on these rentals, which I'm going to show you, that are just outside of this NeoCity, where all these jobs are coming, all this growth is coming, the labor market increasing. So the first community I want to focus on, which is going to be in close proximity to these areas that we mentioned, one is called Hanover Lakes. It's a hidden gem, very, very popular community. They've almost sold out, and it's a waterfront dream. It's just south of the Orlando area, of which I showed on the map. And you're seeing waterfront property in this particular community priced from the 440 to the 750s. So it's unheard of for the city of Orlando to be able to get on the water and have lakes at your doorstep. So this particular community, Hanover Lakes, it's got scenery all around. You experience the beauty of Florida just outside with a boat dock. You can have a private boat dock in this community. And so we've found a lot of people that whether they want to turn this into a rental or come down the road and be near the water and be able to get out on the chain of lakes. These particular homes are waterfront and they have access to the chain of lakes. So there are water lots available. There's canals that actually weave throughout the whole community. So if you do want to see more video footage of this neighborhood, definitely reach out to Monica because she has some videos of this. Absolutely beautiful. So the residents' backyards, it's actually backed up to a 3,400 acre lake. So in addition to this particular community has quite a bit of amenities. It has a resort style zero entry beach entry splash pad and expansive sun deck with views of the entire community. This particular community is also very convenient location. It is in Osceola County where we've been discussing close proximity to all the major attractions. And I'm going to show you two inventory that actually are available. Like I said, this particular community, there's been quite a few extensive waiting lists and people purchasing these. So these may go quickly. Some of them may have already sold, but this particular one I have available still. One of these just sold actually. So this one I did confirm is available. It is on the water and it's called the Osceola Floor Plan. So as you can see, it's absolutely beautiful. It is a 5 to 6 bedroom, 3.5 bath. 3,899 square feet, and it is priced at $722. It's going to be ready in April, and it is totally move-in ready. There's also additional incentives that this builder is giving. So definitely contact Monica if you'd like more details about this one. The other one I want to focus on is called the Emerson Executive. So this one is also waterfront, wide open. You can see some of the canal in the background. This one's going to be move-in ready as well. And it is 2,291 square feet. It's a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, and it is move-in ready. So priced at $631 to be on the water with that kind of square footage. Again, unheard of. So this one is very beautiful. And this one is also giving great incentives. So contact us for more details about this one. And then I'm going to focus your attention on one other community that's going to be very close to, let me get out of here. You'll have to excuse me. The allergies are kicking in here. So, okay. I want to focus your attention on a community called Tahokwa. So this neighborhood is absolutely phenomenal. So I want to show you the video of this one. This is a very popular community for investors right now. Many investors have come into the area and have purchased here. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a video. So just tune into this real quick and watch a little bit more about it. So this is Tahokwa. So you can see beautiful landscape, lots of opportunities for purchasing. Close proximity to Neo City, where we discussed incredible amenities, beautiful resort style pool. Really, this community has everything that you would need, whether you're renting it or you're coming to live short-term, long-term. And I'm going to focus a little bit on what they have in this neighborhood. So this is a very unique builder. The properties in this neighborhood have really been flying off the shelf with the incentives they've been giving. This particular builder is giving $40,000 worth of incentives. So very incredible deals going on. I'm going to show you a little bit about with the pricing. So you can see the clubhouse and the pool, which we just looked at. And I want to show you some of the homes that are available where they're offering this $40,000 incentive. So you can see here the Sierra is priced at $450,000. They are offering $40,000 incentive off that. And you can see it's a beautiful 2-story home. This is great for rental. It's low maintenance. So when we see this price here, it's already been reduced. It's at $450,000. They're offering an additional $40,000 off of this property. Everything is going to come included in this home. So many upgrades. You're not having to upgrade anything. Low energy efficient, low energy bills. So this, I would definitely reach out to Monica if you've got more interest in this or you'd like more details about this. But as you can see, for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home, 2,500 square feet, within that community near Neo City, absolutely incredible rental options here for this community. So this is one of the floor plans that I'm showing you here. And I want you to see a little bit of the pictures here inside. So as you can see, wide open, it's going to come with the stainless steel appliances. It's going to come with the upgraded cabinets, upgraded cabinetry, as well as the, excuse me, solid surface countertop. So beautiful, beautiful options here. One other one I want to show you. We'll pull it up here. This one is called the Autumn. So this one is really one of the best values I'm seeing in the entire city of Orlando. So again, located to that Neo City area, this is going to get incredible rental figures. And for this low of price, it's really unbeatable. So 1,795 square feet, it's priced at $395. Again, an additional $40,000 in incentive on this particular home. So it comes move-in ready to be rented. We have property managers here in the area that can get these homes rented out very quickly. So there is a very high demand for rentals right now. So beautiful upgrades throughout. Countertops, you can see all upgraded stainless steel appliances. So beautiful options here. So if you've got more interest in this particular one, or some of these do strike interest with you, whether it's Hanover Lakes or Tahokwa, please reach out to Monica because she can get you some more details and we can get you connected here in the area to a great property manager who we can also get you some rental figures for these too. So these are, like I said, flying off the shelf. There's a very high rental demand going on right now, especially for these homes. We've got a lot of investors that are coming in and purchasing these just because, again, they are move-in ready. And they're coming at an incredible value. So hopefully that gives you a little details. And then Monica, I'll let her jump back on here just to see if there's any questions that you may have about these properties. I so appreciate your time and letting me share a little bit more about the Orlando market.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nataka. That's very nice. And we learn a lot about the Neo City, which is a very exciting project. And just like what Lake Nola is. So we got a question from Law. How much is the HOA and what does it cover? And what is the assessment? If there's any Mallarus or special assessment and property tax rate and typical rent for 4 or 3 bedroom. So I presume that Law might be asking more the last project, the Tahokwa, being that is, I think is really one of the best price property. We've been actually helping clients to secure property in the Central Florida, Orlando, and Lake Nola area. By far, this is one of the best price. We actually closed dozens, 40, 50 homes, in the previous, recent years, and even in few months that we got a lot of clients purchase there. But by far, Neo City is an exciting project. And Toho, and especially with the 40,000 incentive. Can you tell us a bit more about the HOA?
Sure. So it is, as you can see, there's luxury amenities that they've put inside of here. So these are going to be low maintenance. So the yard is all taken care of so that you're going to see a slightly higher HOA due to the low maintenance living. But these are going to be run under $200 a month. For each property in each series, these are going to change and vary a little bit as to what you could get in terms of the rental figure, what the exact tax rate's going to be, as well as the HOA. They are going to change a little bit depending on the product you go with. So what I'd like to do is, if that'd be okay with you, is to send out the details of each product, the exact HOA figures for you. And I can also show you what the rentals are going for whether you rent out the 3-bedroom or the 4-bedroom. We're definitely seeing in this price point in that area over $2,500 a month. So anywhere from $2,500 to $2,800. So you can see very high rental figures for the price. So I can get you guys all the details on that one. In addition to this Tahokwa community, Hanover Lakes also has the exact same HOA CDD fee of roughly around $200 a month, and that's going to vary depending on which product you go with as well. Tax rate is going to be a little dependent, when you're purchasing it as an investment, you're going to find they're going to be slightly higher. The tax rate the lenders are going to show in the area is significantly lower, I know, than California, but they're showing 1.25%. So as an investor, I see a lot of these properties coming in around 1.5 on the high end.
Yeah, I think this is reasonable. Yeah,
Yes.
1.5, because we invested throughout the nation. We've seen taxes as high as 3% in taxes. And Florida, looking back, 1.5% actually, like is moderate.
Yeah.
And besides, I agree with you that the rental market is very strong, because I had just have like 3 or 4 closing with clients in the last month or so. Many of them got rented within weeks. And also, the property manager that we work with, we have started working with them since 2007. And we were able to negotiate a group rate for rental. So like say, when we go into the market, we usually will negotiate a volume discount. So even if like say, normally if they charge 10%, they only charge us 8%. And then being that like say, we are very adamant in screening for good tenants, and the manager knows our criteria. So if you're buying a new home, being that the builder offers a 10-year structural warranty and 1 year, fit and finish warranty, and other, electrical and plumbing warranty. So is pretty much, like the first few years, it would be pretty hassle-free. And the manager can take care of all the leasing. And being that Leo City is going to be a 15 years project, right? Is that correct?
Yes, and it has started. It has already started. So they're actually going on for several years now. So it's already in development stages. But yes, very lengthy process.
I see. And who would be the primary developer? Because it's going to be a multi-billion project. I know is very high profile. And who's funding it?
Well, there's actually going to be quite a bit of different companies that are coming in. So this is a corporation who actually owns Neo City. And I was just off the phone actually with somebody who sold a house to the CEO out there. So this is a corporation. I'm not exactly sure who's funding what, but I could get more details for you on that. I'd hate to give you inaccurate information, but it is a corporation that has come in and actually planned the development of this entire process. So it started, it's been going on. They had to pause it during COVID because there was a shortage in materials, but it's been right back at, those materials have been coming in, no issues there. So it has become, been going on for several years now. So.
I see. Well, like when you invest in Florida, many of people would have, like say, question about like the impact of like say hurricane, and also whether the insurance would be high, and especially say Hanover Lake, would that be higher property insurance premium? Would they need any flood insurance?
Good
So
question.
maybe you can share. Yeah.
So we are inland, we're Central Florida, so it's much different than when you buy on the east or the west coast, where you're required to have flood insurance. So Orlando is not in a flood zone. In addition to that, Hanover Lakes, even being near the water, is actually not in a zoned flood zone, so it does not require flood insurance. Even when the hurricane did hit just recently, the Florida area, Hanover Lakes and St. Cloud was not impacted. So we are just so far inland that's why there's not the same requirements that you'd see on the Bay or the West Coast.
So like, do you have any range of insurance that you can share with us, like say if they are, say, considering property in Hanover Lake or Toho?
Sure. So the premiums that I'm seeing come in are going to be roughly around $60 to $100 a month. And the $100 a month is going to be on the high end. Hanover Lakes, I've seen a lot in the $55 to $75 range for single family properties. So the
Yes.
premiums are gonna be, 2,000 for the, I mean, under 2,000 for the year, so very, very low. Even with the hurricanes that hit, there was a slight increase in those premiums. But roughly from what the premiums that I'm getting and the lenders that I'm calling, we're not seeing more than a 10% increase.
That's good to know. So basically, yeah, and for the builders, very often the lots are elevated, and also like say, as you said, Central Florida is not so much impacted by the hurricane. So even Ian just visited Florida, and by the time when it reached Central Florida, it has slowed down and weakened in terms of its falls. And we have many clients own homes, in the Lake Nola and St. Cloud area. And I did actually try to check out with my clients. Actually, none of them have their properties impacted because of the hurricane.
Yeah, and that sounds correct. Yeah. One thing I'd also note is it's important to understand really the rental shortage here. And that's something that, you might want to research if you are looking to invest in this area for the investors. But there is a shortage here just because of a lot of the growth that has come and people migrating to the area. So that's why when you mentioned these rentals are going within 2 weeks, it's because people are lined up, trying to get into the area. They can't quite find the housing. So that's why a lot of the apartment complexes are going up and these multifamily developers are coming in because they know the job opportunity, the growth, the NeoCity coming in, they're all going to need housing. So that's where we're seeing a lot of a rental shortage. So it's going to be good. Build for rent is something very popular here. We're seeing entire hedge funds coming in and purchasing entire developments and turning those new homes into rentals because they know that shortage is now, presently an issue, but will continue to be one here.
Yes, especially I also heard from the builders that like what has happened, say in Fort Myers and those areas, some of the people decided they want to relocate to Central Florida. Yeah, and so there's some housing crunch, like people may not be able to find rental that soon. So that's why, like they're really going after new homes. And typically if you want to buy multifamily in Central Florida, it's going to be a challenge because there's a lot of institutional owners. It's like the insurance company, they build like apartments that are 100 and plus unit, big complexes. There's not a lot of like duplex, fourplex. Very, very limited. But on the other hand, if you buy homes, and we've seen rental actually gone up a lot. Yeah, so like you said, like I just recently put a new tenant into a home that I closed last March. It's about like 1,800 square feet. And I was able to rent it to a Lockheed Martin engineer within 2 weeks after my last tenant left. And the rent is 2,500. Yeah. So basically, there are different type professions in the area, and particularly we like this area of Central Florida, being that it is close to the medical city. Now there is the NeoCity that is really, a big project, and also being, I think, having robotic institutes, some of those tech like photonic companies. And also there's another development known as Sunbridge, which is also a very big development. That make it, like this particular part of Central Florida being in the limelight, attracting a lot of people to relocate here.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely what we're seeing.
Yeah. And then how about Airbnb? Would that be any opportunity for Airbnb?
So generally with the short-term rental Airbnb, you're going to want to look in areas that are zoned for short-term so that you don't run into any issues down the road. And what I mean by that is any types of fees. If it's not zoned, they can come after you and charge you fees. So these particular areas are not zoned short term. And one of the things that I would really focus on, because I can help you with short term, but long-term rentals tend to do and perform stronger. And the other thing that I'm also seeing is the appreciation tends to be a lot higher on these rentals where you're purchasing in an area that is zoned for long-term and not short-term Airbnb. And the reason for that is the upkeep of the community. It's not being constantly run down and rented out. So the rent is more consistent, the rent is stronger, and the appreciation is stronger when we're pulling those comps in 4 or 5 years later down the road after the investor wants to sell.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also because like if you have a short-term rental, sometime if you are not local, you are trying to engage like local management, there would
Right.
be a higher property management fees, plus the city impose like
Mhm.
service fees,
Mhm.
additional city tax. I just actually, I was going to attend a convention in Orlando. I tried to look at all different options and ended up like say the rental itself is not very high, but there's a lot of taxes that are imposed by the city,
Mhm.
as well as service tax and cleaning fees. So I totally agree with Nataka that maybe a long-term rental is better in terms of cash flow and also appreciation.
Yeah, I think we get excited when we see the Airbnb numbers that are presented sometimes. And then as an investor, particularly even for myself, when I've looked into it and I dig into the numbers, one thing that I'll do is I'll pull in short-term areas here in Orlando. I'll actually get the tax returns and I'll actually get the projections of what that property has made Airbnb, and it never is very high. It's never as strong as what you see with the long term. So I definitely agree with you, Monica. And I think that's where Tahokwa, Hanover Lakes, focusing in on these areas that are near and close proximity to the attractions, but are not going to be in those short-term areas, are going to provide you greater appreciation long-term.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you very much, Nataka. Really appreciate the time on a Saturday to share with us all this good information. So we welcome any of you who are interested to learn more to contact me, and then I can give you some initial information, being that I myself, I have a number of properties in the area, and I have many of my clients in the area, and we've been seeing steady appreciation for the properties. And so please reach out to us and we love to discuss with you. And then we're going to share this recording as well as the presentation to everyone register by early next week. And thanks again, Nataka. Appreciate that very much.
And I appreciate you all, and I look forward to hearing more from you.
Yeah, same here. Okay, very good. Thank you for everybody. Yeah, have a very good rest of the weekend, and we shall be in touch next month. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.